that's your you should feel pretty good about that. So, hey everyone, my name is Jim Gast. Welcome to No Law Firm Left Behind. I am joined today with just a superstar of a guy, somebody I've known for, gosh, it's been 20 years, hasn't it, Barron?
Yeah,
at least 20 years. Yeah. Barron Henley of Affinity Consulting Group. Barron, you doing well?
Doing well.
Yeah.
Life is
Everyone,
good. Complain a lot, but anything.
Everyone, I just found out this guy wakes up at 4:30 and goes walking every day. So, keys to success right there.
You got to keep moving. That's my motto. Keep moving. That's all. If I can't run anymore, at least I walk. I'm still moving.
And I just dropped the bomb on him right before we started. He's one of the main reasons that I started running 13 years ago, thereabouts, and I still run to this day. So, Barron, I want to thank you for that inspiration, because it has given me such an incredible feeling in my life, and I can't live without the running now. So, but I'm glad you walk, brother.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. So, hey, everyone, in case you're under a rock and you didn't realize it, this week is the annual ABA Tech Show in Chicago. If you're not going, we're sorry that you're not going. Barron, how many sessions are you teaching?
Well, I'm 2 and 3 hours, which is comprised of 2 sessions. So it's all Microsoft Word stuff. When I was on the board 10 years ago, maybe, we used to have there used to be a whole track, we called it like the core production tool track or something like that. And we covered all the Microsoft Office stuff, and it was the most attended thing. And then I don't know what happened in the intervening years, but they just completely abandoned it. And it sounds like they're bringing it back. And I'm very excited about that because I like talking about that stuff. So I'm going to be doing one how-to. The 2-hour session is a how-to, which that was another thing they didn't do before. I'm happy that they're finally doing some, not just showing people what's possible, but how to actually do it yourself.
Practical, not theoretical.
That's right. It should be fun. And then the other one, we're just going to do a 1 hour talking mostly about an explanation of what Microsoft Word styles are and why you cannot use Word without using styles, because you can't turn them off. And how do you control them? Because they will win the formatting war until and unless you learn to control them. And there's, unfortunately, like many things about Microsoft Word, there's nothing in the interface that even indicates that Word is looking at where you are in the document and applying a style, and it isn't not telling you that's happening, but it is happening. And I talk to folks and they go, yeah, I don't like styles, or I know what they are and I don't use them. And I go, do you use Word? Yes. Okay, then you use styles.
Whether you like it or not.
You can't use there's a style on every paragraph and every document of every version of Word that has ever existed. You just didn't know that was happening. So anyway, it's
for the old WordPerfect reveal codes day.
Funny you mentioned that, because I used to teach WordPerfect when you could get enough people in a class. I used to teach CLE classes in WordPerfect, and that was my first word processor, was WordPerfect DOS 4.2, and the old monochrome green screens and floppy disks. And that was a joyous time. Not really.
You're telling your age, our age, actually.
I keep thinking that people will stop calling me and saying, we need to switch from WordPerfect to Word. But they think every year I get like 20 more firms. I'm like, there's got to be none left. And yet they call. And because since I know that's like the first thing, like, so here's the typical engagement. I go in and everyone is looking at me like they literally want to kill me, because they're being forced to switch from the thing they love, WordPerfect, over to the thing they hate, Microsoft Word, and they want to know why. And I'm like, I'm just a messenger. Like, don't shoot me. I'm going to make this as easy as possible on you, because I understand WordPerfect, and I try to teach, like when I'm dealing with an audience like that, the first thing you have to explain is why there's no reveal codes, just what you said. Because that's the first thing on their mind. They're like, I just want to know how to fix the formatting. And, so I have to cover that initially. And I usually go just back and forth. I'll have WordPerfect open and I'll say, okay, remember in WordPerfect, you had this feature called Block Protect, and it would allow you to hold a heading to the subsequent paragraph, so you get a page break in between. Okay, there's an exact duplicate feature in Word. It is called something entirely different, and you apply it slightly differently. But let's just do these together. And I show them WordPerfect and I show them Word. And that seems to connect the dots for them. But if I ignore what they know about WordPerfect, I I don't really connect with people like I do when I'm like, here's what you used to do and here's how you do it now.
Got it.
That seems silly, but yeah, I find it really makes a difference in terms of retention and also diffusing their anger for being forced to switch to something they know they're going to hate.
We love you, WordPerfect. We love you, WordPerfect.
Yeah, and I don't apologize for Word. Word is super annoying, and there's a ton of features that are broken or need to be improved. But it is the cards we're dealt. You know, like the entire legal world virtually uses Word, and you can use other platforms at your peril because you're going to be basically incompatible with the rest of the industry and all your clients.
Yeah.
So it's kind of is what it is. You just have to go, do I like everything that happens in the technology world? No, but I must adapt and overcome. That's just how it is.
It's a tool, you know, it's a tool. You might not like driving a dump truck, but if you're in construction, guess what? You got to have a dump truck.
That's right.
Well,
you got it.
You know, and so you're doing 2 sessions. One's a 2-hour session, real practical, right? And are you doing that one with someone?
I have a, that's the other thing, the ABA, like there's so many stories that can be told by one person who knows what they're talking about. And yet they always want to have a group of people trying to tell you the same story, which makes every seminar like a high school group project you thought you were never going to have to do again, and now you have to do it again. And then, of course, one person always ends up, you know, doing the materials and kind of running everything. It's just annoying. Yeah. So, unfortunately, we have a 4-panel person, we have a 4-person panel. I can't talk. But I'm going to be teaching the class, and I think that the other 3 are going to be running around helping people who get stuck.
Great idea.
So I don't know what else.
That would be very helpful.
You know, it doesn't do any good. Like if you're trying to show how to add fields and then calculate, you know, he, she's. Well, you can't have 2 people doing that at once. You can't have 3 people. You can't have 40. You have 1 person explaining that.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really lend itself to like going back and forth, like, okay, you do the next section and I'll do this. No. Anyway, we'll work it out.
Yep.
It'll be good.
Segue, right? You know, hey, everyone, if you're not signed up for Barron sessions, get in these sessions. I can tell you from experience, they're entertaining. You know, Barron, you're an incredibly awesome speaker. You know your topic, but you present it in such a way that it's fun. Really, it's fun just to watch you present. Actually, that's entertaining in and of itself.
I try to simply inject enthusiasm into the presentation because I know that if like I do a lot of word training, and everyone on earth, if you say, oh, you're going to do 3 hours of word training, they immediately think I would rather stab myself than do 3 hours of word training. That sounds like a special form of torture. And so I try, you know, the bar is really low. Like I always tell people, I just have to not suck. If I don't suck, everybody thinks it's going to suck. And if it doesn't suck, they're like, oh my God, that was actually good. I stayed awake the whole time and I learned new stuff I can employ in my practice right away. That's a win.
Yeah.
That is a win.
Yeah.
So it's just like, don't be monotone, like have some fun with it. If things are irritating, you know, everybody else in the room is irritated with the same thing. It's fine to talk about that. Like, let's share a common experience.
That's right.
Like we've all suffered
Work
through this
in the
together.
audience.
Let me know how to deal with that.
Work in the audience.
That's, you know, you got to connect with people somehow.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I appreciate that. Well, let's get into today's topic. Okay, because I know you're just chomping a bit. We've already kind of consumed 9 minutes, and so we'll spend the rest of the 20 minutes really getting into it. So, topic of today: frustration to confidence, unlocking the full potential of your software. And when we're talking about software, we're talking about Office, Word, Excel, Outlook, so on and so forth, right?
PDF program, core production.
So let's get right into that. Why I'm going to set you up. Nice little softball for you, right? Why is it important for us to unlock the full potential of these softwares?
Because in my professional opinion, the biggest problem in the legal technology world is the underutilization of what people already own. Yeah. You and I we've received many calls from law firms who want to buy something new. And in many cases, they already have the tool necessary to solve the problem they're describing. It just either wasn't set up right, or more likely, they didn't know how to use it. And unfortunately, it's just endemic in the legal tech industry. The vendors all try to tell people, Don't worry, Jim, you can do this yourself. You can figure out how to automate documents using this document assembly platform. It's no code. And that, in my experience, is just simply a lie. It's a timing thing. Like, let's take document automation. I've been doing that my whole career. Document automation platforms, every single one of them, tries to convince all of the potential customers, don't worry, you can automate your own templates. And the reality is that's just simply not true. First of all, in order to set up a template, let's just take, like, let's say I'm going to do a revocable trust. It is not unusual for me to set up a 400-page template that produces a 40-page document once it's assembled. Like 360 pages of irrelevant text is discarded right during the assembly process. All the blanks are filled in, conditional logic happens, things are calculated, numbers, text, dates, whatever. So if that document is not set up absolutely perfectly from a Word architectural perspective, you're going to have formatting issues out the wazoo when you get done. It'll take you so long to fix all the formatting glitches, you'll wonder, why did I ever do this in the first place? Okay, the unfortunate reality is 95% of legal users, even people whose job it is to word process, are using 10% of Word. They don't have any idea how to set up something correctly so it all works perfectly and you get the right paragraph numbers and the right spacing and everything is right. So if that's not right, just forget about the document automation side. The playing field upon which you are operating, you don't understand. You're never going to build a template that you're going to be happy with. But then, let's say you do get to that point, you get a good template built. Now you're going to have to learn what amounts to really a programming tool. Yep. I always tell people, if all you want to do is fill in blanks and do some basic stuff, you don't need a document automation platform at all. Word has been able to do that since forever. Learn how to use what you already bought and you don't have to pay anything extra for it. No subscription on top of Office 365 or Microsoft 365. Yep. So when you get into the more complicated things, then it's not no code. It can't be no code. No code means simple. Mm-hmm. So if you're filling in blanks, yeah, it's simple, no code. But if you want to do, I've got the potential, let's just take something like trustee identification. I got a married couple. The initial trustee could be client one alone, client two alone, both of them married couple together. It could be one of the spouses and some other people, one of the other spouses and some other people. It could be a sole trustee. It could be a co-trustee. And any of those trustees could be individuals or entities, and all the co-trustee options could have an unlimited number of co-trustees. And then if I appoint two initial co-trustees, then I have succession rules. You might say that if I have two initial co-trustees and one of them can't serve, the remainder can serve alone. And when they both can't serve, then the successor steps in. Or you might say, well, I have a spouse who's a little infirm, and if they can't, they've got a co-trustee. And if they can't serve, it's fine. The remaining trustee can serve alone. But if the trustee who isn't the spouse can't serve, well, the spouse can't serve alone. So I need somebody to step up into that position. Now, just think about that. Mm-hmm. And that could be the situation on the initial trustee, the first successor, second successor, third successor, fourth successor. How deep do you want to go? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It sounds simple. It's not simple. And then when you think about a document automation platform requires that you develop the questions, the answers to which will get you the exact language you want. And if you ask the average lawyer, have you ever written down every question that you ask and answer in your head when you're drafting a complex document? They look at you like you had three heads. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, and that sounds like a really awful thing that I would never want to do. Okay, well, that's what document assembly is. Like, if you don't write down all the questions, you're codifying your decision tree. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what? Wait, I thought it was just filling in, but no. Do you just fill in blanks in your document? No, you're copying and pasting, you're pulling in provisions, you're discarding stuff you don't need, you're calculating things. This software is going to do that for you, but you've got to come up with that. You've got to type all those questions. Yeah. And when they think about just something like, I'm going to identify the initial and successor trustees, it's a blizzard of questions just to get that one. It's one stinking paragraph, right? Yeah. You're like, I spent 5 hours automating a single paragraph, and I want to stab myself, You're like, okay, well, that's what document automation is. It was sold to you as a don't worry, you can. And the other thing is, take how much time you think it's going to take and multiply it by 5. Yeah, at least 5. So, is it a good use of your otherwise billable time? Automating documents? It depends. Like, I would argue, no, it's never. No. I
have somebody do it for you.
Yeah, I did it myself. It was a bad use of my time when I was in private practice. I did it because I weirdly enjoy it. It's why I still do it today. I like programming. I like
You're
doing
a sadist.
it. I like part? I am. It's like a birth defect. I try to figure out like, or a character defect. I don't know what it is.
Either
It's some
one.
kind of defect.
It's innate, so it's birth.
It's like, I like to do things other people go, ew, you know? Okay, well, there's different strokes for different folks. I enjoy doing it, so I'd come in early in the morning and I would stay late at night and I would work on my templates. The more I learned about the platform, the more I would go back and rework my templates, because I realized the way I did it the first time was terrible and inefficient and stupid, and I have to go back and fix it. And it just became this spiral because I can't leave things alone.
Nope.
But anyway,
That's
then what happened was my friends were like, dude, can you do that for me? I want that document automation thing. And, you know, back in 1997, that was my inspiration for divorcing the practice of law and becoming a full-time legal tech nerd, which I've been doing ever since.
I wouldn't say nerd. I wouldn't say nerd, you know. I wouldn't say
I'm a nerd.
Yeah, I hear you there. So let's talk about it. I mean, let's get into some real practical things, right? I mean, you said a little while ago, if you just want to fill out forms, Word's got that possibility. I mean, is that legitimate for someone to do? I mean, does that help? Does that take them? I mean, obviously it takes them a little further than where they're at by just typing in manually, copying and pasting, right? I mean, does that really help efficiency, accuracy, the bottom line, like you're hoping?
It really does. And so there's two ways you can do that in Word. You can have a traditional mail merge, where that's a two-part thing. I've got a data source, usually a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and then I've got a merge document, or merge documents plural. So like if I want to enter the data one time and allow it to populate multiple documents, then I want to do a mail merge, because then I don't have to keep re-entering that information. But on something like, let's say it's an engagement agreement, and I don't, you know, I just I answer 6 questions, and I need to get, you know, let's say I'm a family lawyer and I have 6 different practice areas that I would handle in family law, and I pick, you know, like a post-nuptial agreement. That's automatically going to include certain paragraphs and exclude certain paragraphs. I identify who is the lawyer that's going to work on it, and that's going to put in their hourly rate and their signature and other things. I might calculate, I might have a married couple as a client, in which case I'm going to have verb conjugation issues that need to be calculated. You're always going to have pronouns that need to be calculated, and those can all be done. Like if I ask a question, either in a spreadsheet or in a table at the top of a merge document that says client gender, male, female, with a multiple choice, I can calculate anything you could calculate in your head. I can calculate in the template based upon that.
Yep.
The problem is, well, let me pause. The good part is, once it's set up, it works flawlessly. Mm-hmm. And you can literally send that template to anybody in the world that has any version of Word, and it works great for them. Windows, Mac, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It just works. The problem is setting it up in the first place, because Microsoft doesn't give you a set of tools. So like if I have a variable called client gender, a question, and let's say it's client underscore gender, and I want to calculate a pronoun, then I have to go to the spot where I want to put that pronoun in, and I have to first reveal my fields in Word, which is Alt F9. And then to insert the brackets, I have to hit Control F9, and that puts in 2 squirrely brackets. And then I have to type if, and then I hit a space, and then I hit Control F9 again for another set of brackets, and then I type in client underscore gender. Then I move my cursor to the right side of the first bracket, and I type space equals space, quote, male, close quote, open quote, he, quote, open quote, she, close quote. You have to type all that stuff.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So like,
you gotta know how to
it's
do
not
that.
like you got to know and
what does an ampersand stand for? What does it do? You know,
right? And formatting, like you've got a date, and it wants to put in your date, you know, 02/28/2023, but you want it to say February 28th, 2023. Oh, you think that's easy? No, it's not easy. And you've got to put in, you know, you got to go in the field and do / merge field space / and then put in your format example. And where are the format examples? They're nowhere in Word. No. You got to look them up on the internet,
right.
Write them down and type them into your document. So it's like a lot of look up and type and look up and type and look up and type and test. It didn't work. Why doesn't it work? I don't know. One stupid little space is in there that shouldn't be in there, and the whole thing doesn't work. So yeah, it teaches you patience and persistence and resilience and all those things that we're trying to try to build on in our lives. And technology, if you try to automate something in Word, you'll get all of that, or else you'll throw your computer out the window and leave.
Yep.
So,
and then you weren't expecting this. Go ahead. So you got a but. Go ahead.
It's once it's done, it's amazing. And when I show it to people, they're like, what? Like, they don't even, I'm like, yeah, no, this Microsoft Word has always been able to do that. No, I just because you've never seen it doesn't mean it isn't possible.
Right.
Here, I'll show you again. And they just are flabbergasted by it. I mean, all I got to do is simply show them a couple of automated templates and generate documents from them.
Yeah.
And the looks on people's faces of astonishment is just super gratifying. But
yeah, you just created the internet in their eyes.
Yes.
Basically.
And if you need something more sophisticated than that, then that's when you go to document automation. But the problem is the time difference. Like, I can do more with the document automation platform than I can with Word natively. Unfortunately, it takes about the same amount of time. I can do really, really complicated stuff in a document automation platform infinitely faster than I can do it in Word. So, like, if someone says, well, I don't want the subscription cost that goes along with the document automation platform, which is a legit argument, then I got to say, okay, the only thing you're really going to save is the subscription. And I think people are kind of surprised. Like, it's not as expensive usually as what people think. Like, let's take Hot Docs, for example. Hot Docs Advanced is their new version. It's web-based. It's amazing. They sell licenses in 10 packs, and it's $30. What they don't publish the pricing, but our clients are getting $30 per user per month. So, $4,000 or less per year for 10 licenses. Like, I can have 10 people banging out 100 documents every hour. That's not like a super ridiculous cost. If you think about it, it's not. For what you're getting, it can make a giant improvement in your deliverable. If your deliverable is a set of documents, or your practice area requires, you're going to have to machine out some really complicated documents. Like, I'm automating right now a bunch of separation agreements for some divorce lawyers in New York. Oh my God, those things are complicated. Like, they think about things when I'm reading through their document, that if you sat down and said, Barron, I want you to write down every issue that could possibly come up in a divorce. If I sat there for a year, I wouldn't come up with half of the things that are in their document. Like, they have literally, every time they had a client over the last 35 years who argued about something, they added a provision to the separation agreement to deal with that weird little argument that arose. And, 35 years later, you're like, wow, that document is a beast. And, but you can take something like that, even in, the transactional areas are all going, they want to go flat fee, or they're feeling pressure to go flat fee. Yeah. But even like a divorce practice is historically an hourly practice, because you got people fighting and you don't know how long they're going to fight. And you want to bill for all the time they want to keep fighting. But you could take something like that separation agreement, and where it used to take you like 8 hours to get one of those finalized, now it could take you 25 minutes. But you could charge a flat fee. You can compartmentalize your services, and you can say, well, this giant drafting task that I used to spend 8 hours doing, I can now do in 25 minutes. Does that mean it's worth less?
No.
Oh, cool. I would argue it's worth more, because you've got a system that has higher accuracy and allows you to easily contemplate the bajillion variables and fact pattern scenarios that need to be incorporated into this document. So you can charge the same. Let's say, 8 hours times $350 an hour is what you used to charge. Okay, take that same amount and make it a flat fee, and now you do it in 25 minutes, and your effective hourly rate on that little piece of the overall process was like epic. Thousands of dollars an hour you made.
Right.
And I think finally law firms are coming around to that idea. And the other thing that's really pushing it, I think, is all these Zoom, LegalZoom, and Rocket Lawyer, and all these. If you just go, you do a web search, Ohio draft my own will, you're gonna get a bunch of hits, right? Those all use document automation technology. So people have seen it, and they're like, a lawyer would think, well, I could build a system that competes with that, but does a better job.
Yeah.
So that's really tipped in the last 5 years maybe, and then COVID made it even more acute because there were so many lawyers that were separated from their support staff. I'm sure you got the same thing. We got tons of emails from clients right after the pandemic hit. And they're like, oh my God, I can't get anything done because I can't just walk out of my office door and have my legal assistant sitting there to help me. And they wanted to become more self-reliant. I think, like, I don't know how old you are. I'm 56 years old. So
54.
Okay, so we're roughly the same age.
Right there.
When we were coming up through college, there wasn't really technology. Computers existed, but they were as expensive as a small car, and we were poor college students. Yeah, and couldn't afford them. So, and then when I first became a lawyer, I was told very specifically to not worry about the technology, Barron. You need to focus on doing stuff only lawyers can do. And in 1993, I could do lawyerly stuff completely outside of any interfacing with technology. Okay. And then several years go by and all of a sudden they're like, oh, dude, you need to know how to do this.
Yeah.
You told me I didn't need to know about it. Don't you remember? You said, don't worry about this. So now, but at that point, so there's a generation of lawyers like my age and older who we were told not to worry about it. And then all of a sudden, oh no, you need to know this now. Oh, I don't have time to learn this. And plus technology, as everybody knows, has an amazing ability to make smart people feel stupid. So nobody wants to feel stupid. So there's natural pushback against, oh, I don't want to learn that new thing. It's just going to be, but so now lawyers are like, okay, how do I do more work without incurring more costs? How do I become more self-reliant without needing support staff to hold my hand to do everything? Okay. Document automation gives them that, because if they answer the questions correctly, which they can do 2-finger typing, even if they're a terrible typist, or you can even use Dragon. I've done that too. You can speak the answers to the questions and it types them in for you. The documents come out perfect already. You don't need to send them to somebody else and go, can you make this look good so we can file it with the court, the client can sign it? It already looks good. And if you make further edits, if it's set up right, it still looks good.
That's right.
So it empowers people. And I'm sure you've come across people that they're like, I couldn't do anything on my own previously. And then they learned how to do it. And now they proselytize about it. And they're on the soapbox. It's all they can talk about. They just love it. They want everybody to know that you can
proud of themselves. So proud of themselves. So proud of themselves.
Yes. And those become the evangelists that go around and tell people, you could learn this, older lawyer. You could learn how to do this because I learned how to do it. And I didn't know any of this stuff before. It's, there's no age limit, but we were just told not to worry about it. And it's hard to capture it once your career is in full swing and you got all these pressures and all this, you don't have time to sit down and futz around with it. So they're looking for technology.
Practicing law to learn something new.
Yeah, you want something you can just plug in and it does some cool stuff for you. Yeah. And using it is easy. Setting it up maybe is not. And one of my favorite analogies about that is, technology is like driving a car. For example, I've been driving for 40 years. I have never been involved in a wreck, ever. My fault or anybody else's, ever, knock on wood. I know it's dangerous to say that out loud. I attribute that to the fact of there's luck involved, no question. But I also don't look at my phone. I look at my mirrors. I use my signals. I pay attention. I have good reflexes. And I'm constantly expecting everyone around me to do something stupid so I can avoid it.
That's it.
Right? Do I know anything about cars? I don't know jack about cars. The point is, I can be a really good driver when I can't even change my own oil. Okay, technology is exactly the same. You just need a good car. You just need good technology. If it's set up right and you know how to use it, you can do amazing things, even though you didn't know how it was built in the first place and you don't know how to modify it if you wanted to make a change to it. You can hire somebody to do that. But you can be a great driver of technology as long as the technology is set up right and it's good stuff in the first place.
Yep.
And conversely, a firm that has old shitty technology can be amazingly efficient if they're maximizing its use, compared to a firm that has amazing, super expensive, cutting edge, state-of-the-art technology that they're barely touching. Right? There's a big difference there. You can do more with bad tools compared to a firm that has amazing tools, but you're just scratching the surface. So on the core production tool stuff, that's really what we focus on. Like, learn how to use the stuff you already bought.
Yeah. Don't have to make big investments.
Sell in your practice? Of course you can. Well, I'm not an accountant. You don't have to be an accountant. Nope. Like, there's a million uses of this. Same thing. Could you make better use of Outlook? Of course you could. Could you make better use of Word? No question. What PDF program do you use? Oh, you could make better use of that too.
Yeah. You know what, Barron? This is why I have you on the show. I can just wind you up and let you go. You're awesome.
Sorry.
This guy's the Energizer Bunny over
here. My wife
here.
is here to kick me under the table and tell me to lower my voice and will you please stop talking for a minute? I'm like, oh, sorry, honey.
No, you're awesome. You're a rock star. Look, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to go over a few minutes, and I don't care. You got 11 o'clock. You got something you got to pop to real fast?
No, I got time.
Okay, good. So, you know, here's the thing. You use my car analogy, right? I like to take that just a little bit further, right? Your mom and dad buy you a car. You don't have your driver's license. You have no idea how to freaking my daughter had to ask me, what's this stick on the side here do? You know? And I said, oh, you turn your bright lights on when somebody's bright lights are on you. No, I'm just kidding. So in all honesty, though, I said, but the analogy is excellent because you can have somebody handle all that for you, right? You know, hey, we designed this car, you know, but you still have to have somebody teach you, a driver's ed instructor and someone in practice and so on and so forth. Does that mean you got to change the oil? Nope. You know, does that mean you got to know how to, you know, pull an engine and put a new one in, change tires, whatever? Does that mean you got to know what that little light set is when it flashes with what my wife lovingly called the sideways helicopter one time? It's a motor. I love her. I love her. I love you, Ani, if you're watching. And the good news is she's probably not. She doesn't watch. So anyway, the sideways helicopter, what does that mean? You know, when the sideways helicopter comes on, it means stop the car, you know, $4,000 later. And then
yeah, you don't want to see that.
The key is that you can try it, you can figure it out your own, and you're gonna have that accident, right? You're not gonna use your turn signal and you're gonna turn right and somebody's gonna hit you, okay? Or you can have someone like yourself that can teach you how to do it, you know, or then you can go to the next step and have a chauffeur again, you know.
Yeah.
And you guys have been always awesome at offering. Do you guys have resources on the website to self-teach something?
Yeah, we have a thing called Affinity University and Affinity Insight, and we have hundreds of hours of pre-recorded content covering all sorts of things. It's how to use particular software applications, you know, law office management things. And there's a place for that. And those tend to be like, we'll do a video on like how to do a table of authorities. Like no one wants to watch a 2-hour video to get 5 minutes of what they were actually trying to solve. So we do little bits, and we'll do like however many minutes it takes to explain a thing, if it's 6 minutes or 15 minutes or what. It's not like we're doing it for CLE, so it doesn't all need to fit into a 1-hour chunk. But the pre-recorded content, of course, you can't ask questions of. And people invariably, when you're doing technical training, they have lots of questions. And so that's why we do so much live training, either video or on site. It doesn't really matter. Or like you teach a lot of continuing legal education classes, as do I. And so sometimes people will say, I need to take your word training. And I'm like, if it's just you, it's going to be way too expensive for you to hire me as a one-on-one trainer, because we charge a flat fee per class. If you have 20 people, it's a great deal. If it's just you, it's kind of expensive. Why don't you just search Barron Henley Microsoft Word CLE, and you can take the class I taught for the Colorado bar or the Illinois State bar or the New York bar or any bar. You don't have to be a member of the bar, and that's going to be way cheaper. Even as a non-member of that bar association, it's way cheaper to get that content. But then if they have questions, they pay little bit of money for that. They get a CLE if they can use it. And then if they have questions, they can call me about it. But in the live classes, I mean, that's one of the things I really disliked about the whole move over to webinars, because people ask fewer questions in webinars than they will when they're, I don't know, it seems like when they're live, I get a lot more questions than when I'm teaching a webinar. And you can't
get some distractions on a webinar.
Yeah, people can do email, they can go look at something else. And I'm not a super fan, but I am a fan of instructor-led training that's live, that if they want to ask questions, they can ask questions, and it can be customized for them. Like if I'm doing word training for a litigation firm, particularly in a jurisdiction where maybe their pleadings have the line numbers in the left margin, like Oregon, Arizona, California, and other places. That is, I'm going to use completely different documents to illustrate stuff in a litigation firm in one of those jurisdictions than an estate planning firm. Their documents are wildly different and present completely different issues. Like, I'm not going to talk to a estate planning firm about tables of authority. They don't need to do that. They hardly ever do tables of contents, maybe in a rev trust, whereas a litigator is going to need to do that all day long. And you have page numbering issues in a pleading. You got a title page with no numbering, and then you got a table of contents, table of authorities that's Romanettes, and it starts at 1, wherever that starts, even though it's page 2 or 3 overall. And then when you get past that, then I start over my page number again, Arabic, not Romanet, 1 again, and now, but it's page 11 overall. And even things like that, they're like, I've had people send me appellate brief templates where they sent me one page was the cover page, next document was the table of contents and table of authorities, next document was the brief. I'm like, why didn't you put these together? Like, well, Word won't let you restart page numbering. I'm like, yes, it will. They're like, no, we Googled it. And I'm like, okay, the Google doesn't know everything. And just so you know, the way we use the word processor is way different than the rest of the world. Specifically, we require way more of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just had an email yesterday from a guy in Albuquerque, and he was trying to figure out how to put in, he was doing a mail merge, and he wanted to have hard returns included in the cell in Excel, right? And he's like, and I need those hard returns to pass through to the Word document so that I have paragraph breaks. And I have Googled and Googled and Googled, and I don't think it's possible, but I wanted to ask you because I know you know a lot about this stuff. And I go Alt Enter. He goes, what? And I go Alt. But so the Google, I don't know why he couldn't find that. I don't know where
it's out there.
You know,
it's out. It's in Control M or something like that. Also, something similar. It does so many things.
So the Google doesn't always help us, and you gotta find somebody who's a nerd about that who can tell you. Now I don't even know why I know that. My head's filled with all kinds of.
Just remember it. You just remember it.
If I had to look it up, like if I had a problem to solve, that traumatizes me a little bit. When I can't figure something out, that really makes me angry. I have a whole anger management issue that is oversharing right now, but it makes me so angry when I can't solve a problem that when I finally figure it out, I couldn't forget that if I tried. Like you could give me a lobotomy and I could still remember how to solve that problem because it's so frustrated.
Because you hate not knowing. You hate not knowing.
I hate not knowing. And then I'm like, why is my head so full of this useless information that I needed one? But sometimes people from Albuquerque will send me an email and go, how do you do this? And I'm like, boom, I knew it instantly.
Listen, one thing's for sure about today's show. My face is going to hurt from laughing and smiling. It's going to be your fault. So when I walk in with like wrinkles and you see me at the tech show, you're going to know why.
Good. I'm glad I punished you in that way.
Well, I am going to cut you off because, I want people to come see you at the tech show, and I'd love to have you back on again. As a matter of fact, I would love to have you, Debbie, and Paul on at the same time. That would be dangerous. That would have to be a 2-hour show.
You're going to have to do that on a tape delay, I think.
Yeah, I know. So, well, listen, Paul, Barron, sorry. I've got Paul coming up again next month. Barron, it's always great to see you. It always is. I don't get to see you enough and shake your hand enough. But everyone, Barron's knowledge is just unsurpassed. He really knows the stuff. You can obviously tell. He really enjoys it. He's got a lot to add. If you're going to the tech show, you got to get his sessions. If you don't talk to it, go to his sessions, hunt him down, find him somewhere. Sorry, Barron, I know you're probably hating me for this right now.
Hey.
But go shake this guy's hand and bring a question to him. He loves that stuff.
I do.
You can tell him Jim Gast told me to ask you this.
Everyone is a challenge. And if I don't know the answer, I'll make up something that sounds legit.
You'll give him, and then you'll give him hours and hours of uninterrupted entertainment by going to find an answer for himself so he knows. So, well, listen, Barron, let me head over into ending the show here. Everyone, if you're not a member of the No Law Firm Left Behind group on LinkedIn, please go to LinkedIn, search No Law Firm Left Behind. We got a group in there. We put all these videos in there. Sometimes we get some good content in there. Unfortunately, LinkedIn doesn't give us great vanity URLs, so I'm sorry for this ugly URL. But just go to LinkedIn and type "No Law Firm Left Behind." You'll find a group, and you'll find a company page as well. So hunt that down. Also, if you're looking for our past shows, shameless plug, SpliceNet. That's my company. We put all the shows on our website. And we also have a link to all of the podcast platforms there as well. So sorry, I didn't mean to pop that off there so quickly. But so if you're looking for this in a podcast format, so you can listen to it while you run, exercise, whatever you do for fun and downtime, you can hit it on Pandora, Apple's the biggest one. It seems like Spotify, iHeart, all the major platforms. So Barron, listen, I can't thank you enough. Again, I'm going to have to do something, wrinkle releaser for the face, some Downy wrinkle releaser before I go to the show. But thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me to speak with you. It was a good time.
Yeah.
See you in Chicago.
Yeah. See you.